This is Questions of Life. We are looking at the topic of Is God Fair? Here's the next part in our conversation. So in certain parts of the Bible, it talks about God ordaining every day for us before one of them comes to pass. So do you think God knows how many days we're going to be on this earth? Do you think it's God's call when he calls us home? Or is that just part of the fragility of life? You're loving this, sorry. You know.
Do you know, I have to be honest and say I don't fully know the answer to that question. That I'm wavering. Am I allowed to say this in Questions of Life?
Yeah, go for it.
If you'd asked me that 10 years ago, I'd say, no, God knew from the very moment we were born how long we were going to live. I'm not sure that's exactly what the Bible... Well, I think God knows because he knows all things. It's different to saying he purposes and plans it.
Absolutely.
And I'm much closer now to a point that I think there are people that die before God wanted that to happen.
Yep. And I think when we talked about suffering, we can have a hand in that. Other people can have a hand in that. There can be a load of circumstances if we don't look after our health.
Yes.
Things like that. So take my brother dying from a heart attack. That was lifestyle induced. That wouldn't have been God's ideal plan.
Yeah.
He didn't help himself. Child gets run over. You know, there's lots of mitigating circumstances that God doesn't say, right, I'm choosing for this person to die in this way. I don't think God does that.
So because of that, I mean, I used to think, you know, if you were a Christian, then you couldn't die ahead of your time. I think that, like you say, I could choose to live unhealthily, I could be reckless, other people can be sinful. There is all kinds of things. There's an interesting story in the Old Testament about Hezekiah, who God says, today you're going to die, and he pleads with God, and then God says, okay, very well, and he lives a bit longer. And what's interesting is that in that period of life after he should have died, he then has another kid who turns out to be really problematic and damaging. And you wonder whether it would have been better if he died the first time. Good question.
It's interesting talking about the expectation that if you're a Christian, you'll live for a long time. When I was at primary school, I had this wonderful headmaster, Mr. Baker. He was a Christian, him and his wife. And they left when I was it would have been year 4. I can't remember the new school year, something like that. When I was in year 4, they left to be missionaries over in Africa. And they had this great send-off, fantastic, wonderful work that you are doing. And they died in a car crash. Well, the wife died in a car crash over there. And there was just like the shock. How could that happen? They were serving God. They were these great Christian people. And just because we're Christians, there's no guarantees.
Yeah. I can't remember the exact situation. Joel will probably might remember. The situation when somebody died tragically when our children were little. And I started to say, it's okay, Jesus has taken them. And before I got to the end of the sentence, I thought, they're going to ask me, why did Jesus take them? And I think it was somebody's parents. I can't remember, it might have been a school friend's mummy or something from cancer. Why? And I realized halfway through the sentence that was an inadequate statement. And I changed it, which then became the phrase that we used. And I particularly remember when my friends Matt and Chris were killed, that I would say, God has rescued them from death, and Jesus has come to take them home from death.
Yeah.
That, in other words, he didn't take them home from this life, but once they died, he's rescued them, he's taken them. Yeah. And that, I think, is, to me, more accurate, that Jesus comes and rescues people from the place of death. He does not take people to the place of death, I think.
Yep, 100% agree, yeah. I've had a comment in here from Nicola Cleve. Evening, Nick. Lovely to have you commenting. She says, I feel that not enough is ever said about why a person might feel envy or inadequate. I think if we're honest as human beings, quite often we feel inadequate and quite often we feel envious. But I don't think, as Nikki says, I don't think we talk about that enough. I think we are very Western and British and everything is okay, and we think that, I don't know, there is shame in us admitting our weaknesses when actually it's a strength.
Yeah, I think our culture celebrates envy in a way that's unhelpful. I think there's an advert at the moment, isn't there, for an phone company and their internet service is all about envy, and you don't want to envy. And I think we encourage people to look at what other people have and to try to keep up with them. And we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people. And I think our whole culture is trying to say you need to be as good as something else, and that creates envy in us. So I think Nikki's right. It's not recognised and talked enough about.
And I wonder whether the younger generations, being exposed to this far more than we ever were when we were growing up, have a sense of inadequacy and mental health issues because they're bombarded by it.
Yeah.
I mean, we had 2 channels on our telly to start with, black and white, and then it progressed to 4, and they have the internet, they have everything all at once.
I think there's a real link with mental health, and there's a real link with a sense of unhappiness about one's identity and trying to wish we were something else or be identified as something else or be seen as something else. That we're just all the time not feeling good enough, not feeling comfortable in who we are as a phrase. And I think it's really a very, very difficult place for lots and lots of people. And it's rather than us trying to be something else, we need to come to a place of saying, I am who God has made me. And I need to discover why and how that's of use rather than try to be something different. It's a bit like, there's no point just picking up the objects around me. There's no point in this glass of water saying, why can't I be the candle? And there's no point in the candle saying, why can't I be a glass of water?
Yep.
One puts out fire, one creates fire. They're completely different functions, but actually they're both precious and they're both beautiful. And the moment the glass of water is able to say, I'm happy to be a glass of water, and the candle is able to say, I'm happy to be a candle, actually both are at peace. And that's where we need to get to, this sense of valuing our difference rather than wanting to be somebody else.
I think that takes a bit of time, and I think it takes a bit of age and reflection as well. So I remember when I applied for the job that I have now here at the church, and I don't know how old I was, 23, 24, came straight out of college. And do you remember the wonderful weekend of interviews and preaching that I had to do? And so I was preaching on the Sunday morning, and your predecessor, Alan, had arranged for me to go out for a late night curry with all of the 20s and 30s. So I'd been in interviews all day, and he thought it'd be a really nice, relaxing way for me to end the evening. So I'm there with about 20 people. And they're like, oh, you're preaching tomorrow, that's fantastic. We really hope that you're like Donald. I'm like, okay, great. What's Donald like? Well, Donald shows us cartoons and there's loads of pictures, and and they talked about all of your strengths and all the things that make you you and are unique to you, which is brilliant. And so I'm sitting there thinking, oh, great. Yeah, no, I don't have any cartoons. So they actually asked me, do you have any cartoons? And I'm like, nope. And you could just see that all of their faces thinking this is going to be the most boring sermon ever. And what made the sermon interesting was I had a skirt on. So, that's that's the only time in this church I had a skirt on. But it was interesting. And so for the first, probably, 2-3 years, I thought I needed to be like you. I thought I needed to put a sermon together like you or an alpha talk. And it got to the point where I realised, why am I doing this? We're very different. And I think that's a blessing to the church.
It is.
Because I think we complement each other, but we are very different. And so I thought, I'm going to stop trying to be you, and I'm going to work out who I am and go with what feels right for me. But that was a journey. That wasn't an instant, oh, I get it, I know who I am, I know who my gifts are. And it required other people to speak into that as well. So I think in all of this, don't think, right, I'm going to pray about it and tomorrow I'll be the finished article, released and fulfilled and know who I am. But that's more of a journey. It's more of a process. It's more of working it out with God and seeing what fits and what feels right. and then we kind of get there. And then it's being in that place where you think, okay, this is me. This is who God has made me to be. That's the starting point. And then to rejoice in it and be happy. That's the second thing. And then the third thing is to say, use me. And I think knowing who you are, being used by God is the most exciting thing. To see God using you, making a difference in people's lives, people becoming Christians, I just think is the biggest. Buzz is the wrong word, but I love it. It's just incredible. And whether it's I prayed for that person, whether it's I did an alpha talk to that person, whether they didn't know me, but I was cheering everybody else on that was praying for them and speaking to them, love it. Because we're all interlinked, we all play our different parts. But I think understanding who we are, I mean, it would have taken you a little while to work out that you could be different to Alan, our predecessor.
Absolutely. And well, I spent a long time wishing that I could sing. I mean, I have jokes about it, but I was told...
You love music?
Yeah, well, I love music, but I was told at college that I wouldn't be able to work in Christian ministry because I couldn't play guitar and I couldn't sing. It was said in that frame of mind.
Wow.
And I envied people who are musical. I really wanted to be like them because I do love music. So, and I went through trying to be all kinds of other people, and the reason I ended up with cartoons is because I simply love cartoons. That's what I did in my spare time, is read cartoon books.
Yeah.
So I've been through that experience and still do it. There are times in the live streams now where I think, I wish I could be as funny as Cath. I wish I could tease people like Cath, but I know if I tease people, it comes out wrong.
Well, like when you called me a clown.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not bitter about that. I just like to,
can I just throw back in one other thing that's just go back and change the subject slightly. But I remember an experience many years ago, and I can't remember. I'm not good at telling stories about my life, and I can't remember why or whatever. But it was one of those things where somebody had been through a very difficult thing, and they wanted other people to have to go through it themselves.
Right.
So it was like, let me kind of think what it was. It was that. It's like at school where somebody in year 11 says, when I was in year 7, I got bullied, therefore you need to be bullied.
Yeah.
And I remember like a moment of clarity, rare moment of clarity in my mind, thinking there's two responses to suffering. The one is to say, this isn't fair, other people should have to go through this. And we become perpetrators of the thing that we've been the victim of. Because we think it wasn't fair that we did it, had to go through it. So it isn't fair if they don't. Or there's a deliberate choice, which is to say, because I've been through that, I don't want anybody else to have to go through that. And I remember quite in this moment of clarity thinking, whatever ways I suffer in life, I want to make sure nobody else has to go through those. Yeah. I am not going to be the person that says, because I had to do it, you've got to do it. Because that seemed to me in that moment a profoundly ugly and unsatisfactory attitude. And I think there are moments when we make choices about our life. And I would encourage people to make that choice. And that was a choice that I deliberately made, that whatever things go wrong in my life, I won't pass them on. I won't say that because it happened to me, because I don't have a coat, you're not going to have a coat. Because I don't have this, you're not going to have this. Rather, because I found this experience difficult, I will do everything in my power to make sure nobody else has that experience. And that's been quite important for me, just in the way I lead and deal with people. So most of the time, people experience problems that I've never encountered because I try to protect you all from the problems I have encountered. But I do think it's very ugly to want other people to suffer the way we have.
Yeah. And I think God's very gracious, and God is a God who redeems, in that if we're willing to say, God, will you use what I've been through for your glory? Yeah. And I found that a lot of the difficulties that I've been through, slightly like you, I don't want other people to have gone through these things without anybody there. I want to speak into difficult situations. I want to be a support and an encouragement and point people to Jesus rather than, yeah, this is your turn. Great, I've had to go through it, now you have to go through it. But it is a choice. I think all of these things are a choice. We can either get sucked into the world and look at everybody else as the world does and think, oh, I need this, I need that, I want this, I don't have it, I'm not good enough. Or we can say, okay, I'm choosing to believe I'm loved by God unconditionally. I'm choosing to believe that God wants good things for my life. And I'm choosing to live my life through that lens rather than the lens that the world throws at me. At times it's difficult. It's countercultural. It's not the easiest thing because we're human beings and we're more prone to, I want this, I want that, why haven't I got it? But it's the most fulfilling and satisfying way to live life. And I think it's a way that God's able to use us to bless others because he's like, Cath, I created you to be you. Donald, I created you to be you. I want to release you in the gifts that you have. I've given you the passions that you have, the cartoons, the whatever. If you just let you be you and let me work through you, we can do great things. And it's that place, isn't it, of saying, okay, this is me. So, summing up, is God fair?
I think he's fair,
Yep.
but he treats us differently.
Yep.
And we have an unhealthy perspective on fairness sometimes.
Yes.
I think that in heaven,
Yep.
everything will be different and we'll have seen it. We've all had different lives. I think in heaven we'll look back and say we've all suffered
Yes.
and we've all been redeemed
Yes.
and we've all entered this glorious place of joy, and it's all will be fair, but it will be different. And there may be a time in our life where it's our time of suffering and somebody isn't. But at the end, God puts it right. We're preparing for remembrance this Sunday, 10:30. We're going to do a stream of remembrance, and at 11 o'clock we'll share that together. We asked the church to send in photographs, and it's been fantastic looking at, and lots of people put little stories.
They're photographs of people that have served or are serving.
Yes. So
part of the
family
army,
members, friends that have served in the First World War, Second World War, wars since the Second World War, currently. And in this week, when we're all going, well, why have we got to go through lockdown? Why are we going through COVID-19? Why is all of this our problem? And you look at generations past and you think they went through a very different story. And in heaven, we'll hear their story and they'll hear our story. And I don't think we'll say, God, you were unfair. I think we'll say, God, you were with us.
And I look at some people around the world, like genocides and everything else, and you just think, God, I'm grateful that I didn't have to go through that.
Yeah.
Or persecution, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Everybody's going through something.
Yeah.
We just don't always see it and know it.
Yeah. But I remember a conversation with someone from a country where very, very, what we would consider poor, very hard life, come over to the UK, and it's like blowing their mind. And they said, I wouldn't want to live here. Shops are full of stuff, there's so much pressure, your life is so fast, you're doing everything. We don't know if we've got enough food for tomorrow, but life is relaxed. And they didn't want to live in our culture.
Yeah.
And so there's always things we can give thanks for.
Yes. Brilliant. Well, we want to give thanks that you have lasted the course and stayed with us this evening. Hope that you found it helpful. As Donald said, this Sunday we are going to, in each of our 3 live streams, have something to do with Remembrance Sunday. At the 10:30 in particular, we're focusing more on it there. 11 o'clock we're going to have 2 minutes silence along with the rest of the country. So if you're able, please do join with us at one of those live streams. On Monday, we have Cafe Church, and we're looking at tips on helping us with our mental health, something that I think is huge. Lots of us are struggling with at the moment. So there'll be the usual quiz, there'll be some music, there'll be banter, but also there'll be lots of different people, from professionals like doctors to those that have suffered with their mental health, giving us their top tips on how to survive. So we would love to see you. That's 7 o'clock on Monday evening. Join us on YouTube. We will be back next Wednesday with Questions of Life. We won't be live, I'm afraid, but we are looking at the subject of love and relationships. So you're probably regretting that we won't be live, because I suspect we'll have 101 questions about that. But hopefully you'll still tune in. That'll be there at 7 o'clock. But can we say thank you, and we will hopefully see you soon. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye.